listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Camunia here. We are back with episode 95 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. And I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today?
Not as ecstatic as last week, but still doing all right. So the house I'm closing on, we're still going to be closing on it. I should have closed it last week, but by the time y'all hear this episode, I should be closed already. The problem is that we had to delay it over the weekend because of the fact that they had the staircase that was going up to the back unit. It had like no railing, and the underwriter saw it as like a potential hazard, and they wanted the seller to get that addressed before we sold the house. So that delayed the process a little bit more. I also had to talk to my loan officer about being able to put down 5%, but like increase my rate to get like some money kicked back to me in order to be equated to like being a 3% down loan, basically. Because I would pretty much get some closing costs paid for, which would equate to me coming less out of pocket. So it's just been a lot of like little logistical things that's had to happen for the past week. So now we should officially be closed this past Tuesday when you're listening to this. So I'm just ready to get out of the house, or to get out of this house and be able to move on to the next one. So I'm just kind of impatiently waiting.
Yeah. I told you 6 weeks. It hasn't been 6 weeks.
I need to go back and see what day we signed the what day we signed to actually purchase the property, like what day the whole closing process started, because you keep talking about this 6 weeks. I feel like it's been longer than that now.
That's the minimum.
That's terrible.
6 weeks. You cannot close on a house conventionally before the 6 weeks. I refuse to believe it. I don't care who it is.
It's always something, bro. I swear. That's all it's been. It's just something popping up.
Because it's too many moving parts.
Yeah.
It's too many different people that need things. It's too many different things that can come up. It's too many different things. We'll just say this. Too many things have to go perfectly in order for it to close quickly. And that's when I say perfect, it's like there was nothing that came up in the inspection that need to get addressed. No issues with the lender. No issues with title. Right. No issues with the seller.
Underwriters, appraisers.
Right. Everything has to have been pretty smooth for it to close on the initial date that they say it can close. I always just look at it as like, okay, let me add 2 to 3 weeks to that.
So, I mean, that's just being realistic. That's really what it's been like. So we should finally be closing on it, though. Like I said, we should already be closed on it. If not, I'll definitely give y'all an update, and I'll probably be super pissed afterwards. But I'm ready just to continue moving on, because I'm living out. I even mentioned on the podcast, I've been living out this suitcase for the past year, and it's time to move on from this, bro. Like, I'm ready to live my life again. But that's me. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I think it's just really, I'm looking forward to this vacation, man. That's really what I've been thinking about a lot. I need to take a break from all this work. I've been doing so much like training and working on a lot of my systems and stuff, because I just hired my first employee, or she's part-time, but I'm training her to be my operations manager. So it's been a lot of with that kind of stuff. And I also realized that, like, because yesterday or this week, I guess, I realized that I actually over the past few months learned another skill in terms of like just from this business that I didn't even really know I had. It's just what I had to do, and I developed the skills from it in terms of sales. Because I've done like over 1,000 sales calls in the last 6 months alone, and I didn't even really, until I looked at my metrics yesterday, I didn't even think of it until now that I hired someone and I have someone doing sales calls for me. And I'm going back and I'm listening to their sales calls, because they're recorded, and I can listen to what they said and how they go in terms of like when a customer calls for service. Then I'm listening to it, and it's like, okay, these people, a lot of people just don't know how to do sales. A lot of people actually aren't salespeople. They're not trained to do sales. And I realized something because I was like, I wouldn't have said that there. I wouldn't have done that there. I wouldn't have done when I'm reviewing the script.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh wait, I actually mastered this skill over after doing over 1,000 of these calls, 5 to 10 calls a day for 6 months, 7 days a week. I mastered this skill. So now I can't really expect someone to go in there and do it right or do it the same exact way I would have done it immediately, like right when they're starting. And that's something I just kind of had to come to a realization to this week because it was like, oh, okay. So the reason I was able to have so much success in this so far is because I actually learned a high value skill that now I've used that to convert a lot of the leads that I get in terms of closing them on the phone, right? And now if I'm gonna train someone, if I want to outsource that, they either have to already know how to do it or I have to train them. I would personally rather prefer to train them because it's a proprietary method that I've developed for my business that now once I scale the business to multiple cities and multiple locations, people are going to be learning my system based off of the trial and error I went through over the last 6 months because I know it works and I know what people are looking for and I know sales. So that's just like I had that big wake up call yesterday because it was just like, so I sat down yesterday and I was like, okay, I need to refine my systems. And I literally created a sales training manual in
I
terms
think I
of
saw
like,
it on your story. Like, I think that was what you were showing, like showcasing that you were training your employee on. Was that?
yeah. And it was just like, damn, I had to really put something together so people can learn how to do this. Cause when I scale it, I don't want people just doing sales however they think it's supposed to be done. You got to do it the way I want it to be done. So
No, that epiphany, I love that because I had the same thing, but just in different, like with everything that we've done. So I think about this podcast for one. We've gained a lot of different skills from doing the podcast. I'm gonna just give you a practical example. Think about when you first started editing the podcast on episode 1 through 5 versus today when you edit the podcast. How long do those edits take? And then also just about the quality of it. So you've learned how to edit podcasts or edit videos efficiently. That's just one thing. We put out infographics. How long did it take to put out one before versus now? Learn that skill. Then you go into the businesses. How you learn. There's so many skills that you've learned. So for you, it's sales. For me, it's really like customer service. That's like a skill that I would say that somebody can have because I've seen people. Matter of fact, a practical example of this: I was taking one of our cars to go get a recall taken off of it, and there was a customer service representative in there who he had a very short temper. And every time he had 2 phone calls that came into him. The first one was like he said it was like a redneck guy that started cussing at him, and the customer service guy was like, "Hey man, you don't cuss at me, I'll cuss at you." The redneck dude said something else, and the customer service guy literally slammed the phone shut while I was watching him. I'm like,
I gotta see both sides. I gotta see, but before I say he was wrong, I gotta see what other guys
no,
say.
I'm sure he was cussing them out, but I was thinking, how would I have approached that? Because I'm a customer service guy, so now I can say if my employee had did that, you would be gone. Because I know that cause the way I've learned how to handle situations like that that's not how I would have approached it. So
Even if
either
he was right, he would be gone.
you're gonna I'm gonna tell them early on. Everybody's not gonna like the way that you approach things, but we have a certain way that we're gonna approach people, regardless of how they may make us feel. That was an emotional response to that
So
situation.
if the guy said, "I'm gonna go kill your family,"
You got okay. Come on.
I'm just saying, is he? Because you said I know you're saying because he responded emotionally, but he could. You don't know what the other guy told him. Just in this particular situation.
So as a customer service person, this is all you're gonna deal with. So you have to, for one, already expect that people are gonna come to you upset. In a customer service role, people are gonna probably give death threats. They're going to be unhappy with the service. They're gonna cuss you out. They're gonna cuss the company out. That is to be expected. So now, what is your approach to it? Do you just get mad at everybody? Because he got another call right after that with another like a lady that wanted to get her battery cover under warranty. And he was like, okay, hold on, man, and pretty much put her on hold to tell his customer service representative next to him. He said, "Man, they trying me today. I ain't taking that call. You take this one." You don't need to be in customer service because you can't handle the people having problems. But that's why people that are able to solve multiple problems are the ones that get paid the most, because most people don't want to do that. And that's what I took away from that, is that as a great customer service person, you are solving a lot of problems for people, and that's just one way of being compensated. But that's a skill that I've learned from doing this business, and I think that's just my main takeaway from all of that, is that when you do things independently of, like, even in and out of work, you're gaining multiple skills that you're able to apply in multiple areas if you are able to understand that you are gaining these new skills, and you can teach that to somebody else, especially in your own business.
Yeah, I think you definitely gain a lot of skills when you do stuff that's just like different. I mean, because it's different. So you have to, if you want to do it well, you have to gain new skills. Because obviously your skill set that you had prior to it wasn't going to suffice. Otherwise, you would have had, had immediate success in it. So you have to develop those skills. But yeah, customer service, I mean, that's like one of the ones that's just because I deal with a lot of that stuff too as well, the customer service stuff, pretty much on a daily basis, or at least a weekly basis. But now that I have other staff, I'm teaching other people how to deal with that. So it's kind of something that's just like, you know, you it's something you got to learn, like how to deal with those kind of people. Because I hate dealing with these people. Sometimes it's cool though, like because sometimes like today, because I had this lady that so we had service her house, we had cleaned her house like June 28th, and one of the cleaners had broke one of her like glass dolls,
Mhm.
and it was just like some glass doll, but you know how some people are, it's like just it's
My
important.
grandma gave me that glass dog. What you talking about?
Yeah, it was like a collection of them. She had it was a collection of glass dolls. And she was like, "Hey, the cleaner broke this." And this was like a month ago when she said this. And I was like, "Okay, I talked to her. Cleaner said she didn't do it." So now I'm in a situation where it's like he said, she said, right?
Hmm.
He said, or she said, she said. So it's kind of like, who do I believe? Now, obviously, if I go with the customer, then now, my staff, they're not going to be too fond of that. If I go with the staff, then my customers not going to be too fond of that. So obviously, in this situation, there's like no way I can win because it's her word against her word. So to me, it's like you just gotta, as the business, most of the time you have to take the L as the business owner, right? And now I just have to figure out how it don't happen again. The way it won't happen again is because I fired her, the staff, because not because of that, but because of other issues. She just wasn't getting the job done. But anyways, the lady had messaged me today, and she finally had got back to me because I said I would replace it for her. I didn't know how much it would cost when I said that. I just said I would replace it for her. And then she was like, "Oh my God, thank you, whatever. I'll figure out how much." And she texted me today, and she was like, "Hey, I found one. Availability is very limited. This place has only one." And she sent me the link, and it was like $299 for the glass doll. So it was like I was nothing was like, oh my God. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, bro, why is number one, why is this thing that much money? But number two, it's just like, okay, I told her I would do it, so now I have to do it. It could have been 1,000, and I still would have kind of technically had to do it because I told her I would do it. But fortunately, I have business insurance anyway, so I filed a claim. And hopefully, they'll cover it. So we'll see next week. But anyways, she texted me later, and she was like, "Alex, I hate that this happened and really appreciate your willingness to make it right. Some people would have made the situation very unpleasant. Kudos to you. And if you're not the owner slash manager slash boss, I'd like to share my experience with them. If you're the boss, please pat yourself on the back. Blessings." And it was like, that's customer service at the end of the day. But the only thing I did was just give her way.
You can see it. That comes back to solving people's problems. Like,
But there would have been nothing I could have done besides what I did that would have made the situation right for her. That's why customer service is such a thing where it's like, if you don't give the person what they want, most of the time you're gonna be just you're in the wrong. That's how I see it in most situations. I don't know if you see it differently, but that's how I be seeing it.
it's a line between it. It's just about it's a case by case thing at the same time because you could have offered some sort of solution. Like maybe you say that we can go half on it. We can essentially they are going. You're trying to uphold the integrity of your company, but also be able to appeal to what your customer is going through. So, like you said, a good company like a company that has a growth mentality is going to think long term. I had this conversation multiple times, like with my dad. I'm thinking long term when it comes to customer service. I'm gonna take a temporary loss for a long term gain because now that you did that particular because you treated her well in that particular instance, she may become a reoccurring customer with
Yeah,
you.
for sure.
And she thought so highly of you to say give yourself a pat on the back. She's not going to just keep that to herself. She knows other people that have houses that need to have that need servicing, that need to be cleaned. So now that's going to be a word of mouth reference because she's going to be like, bro, they took such good care of me. They messed up something, but they bought me another one. Like
Yeah.
this person really cares about this company cares about their people. That is not so. That's how I personally think about it. I'm giving you your way because I know I'm gonna get a lot more return later on. Not even for that, but I know that there's a law of reciprocity. The more I do for you, the more you will want to do for me, just in general, because I treated you right first. Even though most people, like she said, won't do that.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with the long term thing. And that's why I do that because it's like if I don't pretty much give her what she wants now or get a customer what they want now and take the L myself, that's why I said usually the business has to take the L. She's going to badmouth me. And that is way worse down the line because not only is it I lost her as a customer, I lost any other potential customers that she could have possibly referred me to.
Exactly.
So it's like it's a long term thing, obviously. Especially like one thing that you think of too when you just think of businesses in general is like when if I call a company and I have an issue, how they treat me when I have that issue says a lot about that company and what their culture is and how the leader of that company set the standard for that. And I'm thinking when I'm across the country and have, hundreds of locations, it should be that same level that you would get if it was just me. So you set that culture, you set that standard from the beginning, and then it trickles down from the top, hopefully, if you hire the right people. So that's just kind of my mentality with it. If I have to do those things now, because when I want people to be able to say those same things. Right now, she said, if you're not the boss, I would like to share. I am.
Hmm.
So thank you for sharing. But in the future, when you're not talking to the CEO of the company or the leader of the company, I would want customers saying those same things because then again, and two, it like these people they're gonna go leave. The worst thing they can do is go badmouth you on the internet, put bad reviews about you because now they're shutting you out from a lot of people, and
Yep.
that's always my number one thing in the back of my head. It's like ah, I don't want them to leave a bad review because that's what a lot of people will see.
Hmm.
So
And so
you're
now
100,
you can look at
you're
it. Look at
100%
it
right.
in terms of you say you're giving her what you want, but you're giving her what she wants. But in reality, you're about to get what you want even more because what you don't, or you're also going to avoid what you don't want at the same time. I don't want a bad review because that's essentially from experience. You know that the people that had a bad experience are going to show that all their emotions in that review section, and they're going to just talk about everything that you did wrong, even though you may have did 10 things right. If you did two things wrong, they're going to talk about those two things in depth. And
Yeah.
so I don't want that. And I do want a long-term customer that's going to see me in a positive way, that's going to refer me to a lot of people. So how can I best go about getting that? That's by maybe giving you what you want short term, which is replacing a vase, replacing a glass doll that costs a couple $100s. In the grand scheme of things, if I get a repeat customer from you, I'll make thousands, tens of thousands of dollars from that.
Yeah.
So it's a momentary sacrifice for a long-term gain,
That's a fact. And the insurance will cover it, hopefully. So it's
and
not
that
a big deal.
even better.
Yeah. I just hope they don't try to raise my insurance after. But you know, we'll deal with that when it comes. So yeah, anyways, that's just kind of what I've been thinking of. So I'm really just in that growth mindset in terms of the business. I took a pay cut so that I can bring additional people on. Because I know that's, what you got to do. It kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Because at the end of the day, I know I can only go so far. And I probably could even take the business further by
Hmm.
myself. I can probably get it to honestly, no, I'm not gonna cap. I can get it to almost six figures a month by myself. But it will be like I'll be cooked. So, I just want to get into that
We
mindset.
wouldn't do a podcast anymore because you'd be taking calls the whole time.
Yeah, I'll be taking calls all day. So, anyways, that's just kind of what my mindset is. So I've been reading a lot of books, not a lot of books. I've been reading a couple new books about just in terms of um how do you innovate in business and set yourself apart from other people and those kind of things. So I'm always trying to learn and grow for the business, because at the end of the day, the business is only going to go as far as the leader will take it, obviously. So that's just been what I've been up to this past week. Um, but let me see real quick, 'cause there was something else I wanted to mention. I don't think so.
Gotta write them down.
I don't. I'll probably say next week, whatever. So anyways, but we had a good episode this week. We spoke with Brandon from I think his name of his company is Blue Notes Inc. Something
Yep.
like that. Brandon Blue Notes on Instagram. So he's a wholesaler and entrepreneur out in Orlando, Florida, and he came on here and gave a lot of games, dropped a lot of gems on mindset, business, entrepreneurship, and actually switching your mindset in terms of working for money versus being an entrepreneur. And his business is doing amazing. He said he's doing 75 to $100,000 a month from from wholesaling, and he has other businesses doing six figures as well. He has an app that he created for wholesalers. Him and his business partner created for wholesalers to be able to get more deals. And he said that does six figures, and he has another CRM business that's doing well. So he's doing a lot of stuff. So we got into a bunch of different things in this episode, and I think there's a bunch of value to take from it, especially in the beginning when we talked a lot. We talk a lot about mindset stuff on this podcast, because it's so that kind of stuff is so important to actually get to the point to be able to make 75 to $100,000 a month. You can't do it just being the same person that you are when you first got into business. There has to be some evolution and growth in terms of your mindset. So a lot of people say, if you want the meat and potatoes, how to actually do things, we try to give y'all that as much as we can. But the most important thing is the mindset. Even from the guests that we bring on this show, we can talk about how they actually make their money. But what we really want y'all to get from it too is their mindset. Because at the end of the day, you can always go to them and learn that, stuff directly from them, right? Off their Instagram, from their content, their YouTube videos, their courses, their other podcasts. But at the end of the day, the mindset that they got into to get to what they're doing is the most important thing. So that's what we got into a lot in this episode. So it was a fantastic episode. And Brandon was a dope dude, man. Young dude too. I think he said he was 28 years old.
28.
Having all this success already. So yeah, man, it's a good episode.
I really enjoyed it too. Really, because like you said about the mindset that he has, like he had to go through an evolution of like really finding his why and his purpose with being able to achieve his success that he's achieved now. And I like also that his multiple streams of income is all stemming from real estate. And like wholesaling was the basis, and then he started to start solving more people's problems within the real estate space and helping more people become wholesalers and more people have success in the wholesale space. So that's like utilizing your first stream of income to branch off into other streams within that same industry. So I like that concept that he was going through. And then, like you said, with the mindset in general, you can't become that type of person being who he used to be, which is like he said, he was a barber before that. He was sweeping floors in a barber shop at one point, and like you had to think differently. You had to have a growth mentality of I can achieve something without necessarily having a formal education. So we got into a lot of different stuff, but he understands the importance of educating in the right information. So
Yeah.
it was a great overall episode, and I think hopefully people take a lot of value out of the mindset conversation as well as just what he does in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get into it.
What's going on, Brandon?
What's up, guys? How's it going, man? Appreciate you having me on today.
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate you because I know that you're part of the group Business Over Breakfast. That's really how I got introduced to you. We had O'Neill Parker on the podcast a couple of times actually, and it's crazy how network works. Like when you meet one person, then they introduce you to like five more people. Those five people all know five more people, and it's just like a whole family tree of people that you get to meet just by knowing one person. So I'm very glad to have you on the podcast, man. Glad that I was able to be at that event because I think we've already had at least four people from that event alone on the podcast. So.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. I mean, just like what you said, it's just you meet one person, and then along the lines of one of those people, somehow, some way, you'll make some money, right? So that's just the way how things work. And I mean, it's cliche, right? But your network is your net worth, right? So yeah,
No.
I a lot of gratitude. Appreciate you guys for having me on.
Yep, and that's why I say I appreciate that event, because there was so much knowledge of how to make millions of dollars in that room, that if I knew that, I had to take full advantage of that opportunity. So I really want to like get into that story as far as like what y'all did to set that up, but even more importantly, I want to let the audience know who you are, and like to really tell about your background story of like how you grew up, what you saw with money, like with your parents or just with your surroundings, and
Yeah.
kind of what led you to on this path that you're on currently.
For sure, for sure. So, my name is Brandon Narain. I'm based out of Orlando, Florida. I'm originally from Queens, New York. I was raised by a single mother and grandmother. I actually had to share a bedroom with my grandmother until the age of 16, just because we didn't have, obviously, enough finances to have multiple bedrooms. And yeah, growing up, just kind of like a cliche story. Didn't have my dad around, so I was just kind of one of those rebellious kids. I was getting in trouble in school, not listening, and ended up actually getting expelled from school. So I graduated from alternative high school, barely escaped. It was 2.2 GPA, and that's when I was like, all right, you know what? I gotta see what I want to do with myself, right? So I loved staying fresh, right? So I decided to say, hey, I want to cut hair. So I started to learn how to cut hair. But as an apprentice, as a barber, you gotta do that stuff that you don't want to do. So I was cleaning the barber shop, sweeping, cleaning the toilets, wiping down the mirrors and taking care of the barbers. Obviously, us as men, we know how that goes, man. So it's always talking smack in there, and it's just a crazy environment, but I loved it. So I finally learned how to cut hair. While I was cutting hair, I'm like, man, I'm starting to look around, and I've always had that entrepreneur mindset, but I was looking around, and, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, 30, 40 years old, will I want to be still sacrificing my weekends? Because, on weekends is basically the days that you're going to make the most money cutting hair. And it's a good job because you can go and come as you please. You set your own hours, and you can kind of set your own prices. But it's one of those things as the longevity play, where's the real money at, right? And I just started looking at other avenues. So I said, you know what? My parents obviously told me, my mom specifically was like, go to college, get married, get a degree, and just live your life and die. Right? That's what we were told. So I was like, you know what? Let me just try this college thing again and see what's going on. So decided to work or volunteer at the hospital as a transporter. So I was pushing patients around, and I was going to school to get my associates to then, go into nursing. So ended up being they finally hired me as a volunteer. From volunteering to transporter, I got hired. I was making like $9 an hour, and I was pushing people around, and I was really excited. It was something that I really liked. I like nurturing for people, taking care of people, and obviously my grandmother is one of my biggest inspirations. So taking care of elderly people in the hospital, that was already something easy for me, right? Because I could relate to that. So finally started going through that. I mean, I'm working. I'm really working. So I'm cutting hair Saturday, Sunday, Monday and Wednesday I'm working at the hospital, and then Tuesday and Thursday I'm going to college. So finally I get my associate's degree, and this is a time span of around like 5 years. And I tell myself, I say, you know what, let's break this down really quick. Again, I have another epiphany of what happened in the barbershop. And it was more so, okay, I want to be a nurse. What do nurses do? Now I'm looking at what they do, and I'm like, I don't know if that intrigues me that much, right? The second thing was that, I'm looking at their salary, and I'm like, I don't know if that is going to make me feel like I want to accomplish what I want to accomplish, right? To put in better terms. And the next thing was they work 3 days on, 3 days off. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to work less, right? So what I did was honestly got my associate's degree, and I was happy. My family was happy, even though I can't do nothing with that degree at all. And just never went back, just quit. Um, so at that point in time, I was getting a little bit closer to my father. He does real estate, and more of a man thing. He always kept telling me about real estate, real estate, real estate. And I'm like, you know what, man, you haven't been in my life. You treat me like you don't know me as much. I'm gonna be a real estate guy or do whatever real estate people do, and I'm gonna do it better. I'm gonna show you. You know what I'm saying, for your absence. Went, got my realtor's license. It's like the only thing I excelled at. I passed it the first time. Studied really hard. Became a realtor. 3 months down the line, I was working with a client, and I brought her all the properties that she wanted to see. nice blue house, red door, whatever it was, and she didn't buy anything. And I told myself, I said, you know what? I need to find something in real estate. I'm not going to quit, but I need to find something in real estate where I can control the outcome. Okay. Like I can actually control the outcome, because when it comes down to being a realtor, unfortunately, you can do everything right, but you have to understand that the average person only buys and sells a property twice in their lifetime. Okay. So they're making a huge purchase when it comes down to that. So, when you're being too pushy, or, when you're trying to make somebody do something and it's a huge purchase, especially when they're spending a lot of their time saving money and trying to qualify for a property, it takes time to do so. And I just didn't like that piece of it. So that's when I stumbled upon wholesaling real estate.
Yeah. I don't know. I like that story already, because I didn't realize, for one, like toward the very end, you was talking about how most people will only buy or sell their home twice in their lifetime. That is a great statistic to understand, because now you understand why it's such a psychological thing for somebody to overcome when it comes to making a home purchase. So now you can see why they press so much on having that pool in the backyard, or having the nice patio, having a nice front porch, because they see this as a long-term investment. They think in 30 years, just like the mortgage says. Like if it says 30-year mortgage, I need to be here for 30 years or something like that. Their goal is to actually have it paid off at someday. So they are trying to be there for the long haul. So now you, as the agent, you have to consider that when it comes to like why we had to go see 30,000 houses in order for them to pick the right one. So now your return on time is a lot less versus another avenue such as wholesaling, such as real estate investing in rental properties and things like that. So that's a great observation, because that allows you to now determine, is this what I want to do based on the return on my time? Like, is this something that's going to give me the best return on my investment at the time that I'm putting in? Because like you said, with the nursing, you didn't want to work 3 days on, 3 days off. You want to work less than that. And a real estate agent is working more than that, because I got to show each person these 40 houses in order to get that, in order to make a profit at all. So that's a great observation. And so now you got
Are
your
you
start.
are you Puerto Rican?
Nah, so my family's actually Colombian.
Oh, okay. I was just curious because
Yeah, but we Hispanics are Hispanics, but yeah, I'm actually Colombian.
okay. I was gonna say Puerto Rican, and if not, I was gonna say Dominican. But
Yeah.
I was
Exactly.
just curious.
It's all the same thing, you know what I'm saying? When it comes down to the umbrella, obviously, I might get a little shade for that, but Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, are different. But when it comes down to other people, we all Latin. But yeah, I definitely, like I said, and going back to what Marlon was saying, right? It's just one of these things. I was actually telling, my cousin the other day, I was telling him, I said, man, listen, you got to really break down what your current situation is, because everybody has an emotional home. Your emotional home is your like 9 to 5. That's where you feel safe. And that's the reason why society puts this thing on you to say, you know what? We're going to make you feel at ease by giving you benefits, by understanding that even if you don't do a great job, but you come to work and do a mediocre job, you're still going to get paid. Okay. Because I'm going to be honest with you, right? Sometimes I used to come to work and I was cutting corners. And guess what? I was still getting paid. Why? Because I'm on an hourly job, right? So, society gives you this thing to where, they make you feel at home. It's an emotional home. And I told him, I said, listen, what is your 5 to 10 year goal? Right. And you also have to look at, if your 5 to 10 year goal does not consist of more than what your boss is making, you have to leave that job. For example, if my boss is making $80,000 a year, right, and he's been there 10 years, I've been there 2 years, you have to understand that he has to leave for you to be able to make more just as much as him. Okay. Also, you might have to put in the time of another 8 years to reach that experience, because your boss is only there and making more money than you because he got there first.
Right.
So what I noticed is that I don't want to be put, this tag of, hey, Brandon, you're worth $10 an hour because of your position, right? So that's when I was like, you know what, I have to move into something. And everybody says real estate, and that's why I was like, all right, let me be a realtor, right? Then I thought about actually flipping, but I don't have money. So that's how, obviously YouTube University and just understanding what wholesaling is became about. But it's just one of these things I like to talk about because it's, I think we're all in our 20s here. And it's just one of those things that you have to understand. Between the age of 20 to 30, you have all the failures to make.
Yeah.
You can fail so many times. You could damn near fail every year. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm so happy that I was able to do, because a lot of us, especially young, we're staying with our people. We're staying with our mom, our grandma, our dad, or maybe even both. And we're not leveraging that. All right. What do I mean by leveraging that is that, let's be honest, are we paying mom,
Come
grandma,
on.
for rent while we're staying in our 20s? No, we're not. Right. So we have to leverage that to find out how we can actually make money. And that's why I'm so grateful to be able to have that piece, because I was able to do that and learn my niche as I was at home.
How old were you when you got into real estate?
Let's say I was 25,
You 24.
24, turning 25. I'm 28 now.
Okay, so this is very recent.
Right,
So
exactly.
Yeah, I've been in real estate about 4 years. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that last point too, because I think we were just talking about that last week. That whole concept of understanding the situation, because a lot of people don't really know, and they don't realize necessarily what their most valuable asset is. A lot of people think that money is the most valuable asset, but it's not. It's time. It's 100% your time. Because the thing is, if someone asks you, would you want to switch places with Warren Buffett? You can have his $90 billion, but you got to be 89 years old. 90% of people are going to say no.
Yeah.
Probably everybody will say no.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm barely get to enjoy it. You would much
Exactly.
rather be in the position you're in now, even if you're broke or you're in a lesser position. That's a situation you have the potential to change. But the thing is, most people in their heads have already convinced themselves that at least I can just enjoy my life with this predetermined lifestyle of just trading in my time for money. I'll take a couple vacations a year. I have my weekends because that's like normal, and it's for anybody to try to do something different. It's like, well, what are you doing, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you're young, though, I always like to think of the concept of it's like an asymmetrical risk to do anything outside of the norm, right? Right? Because essentially what that means is the potential upside is going to be a lot greater than the potential downside, because there is, like you said, you could fail every year. You could lose $100,000 in a year. You could lose everything, and you have so much time to recover, and nobody else will be affected by that. It's kind of like even with Bill Gates when he started Microsoft. He started
Yeah.
Microsoft when he was in his 20s. He dropped out of Harvard to start Microsoft.
100%.
That is there was so much upside to that it almost didn't make sense not to do it.
Yeah,
So,
and that's why they say, if you look at most billionaires, these types of people, that they really had basic grades, B's and C's, 2.5 GPAs, 2.6, because they were just doing enough to abide by the rules. And I was talking to this, I was actually yesterday, on a seller appointment, and there were some kids that came out of the house, and they're like, man, they love Tesla. So I drive a Tesla. They love Tesla. And they're like, man, you're fresh. You have a Tesla. Are you a rapper? And I'm like, no, I'm not a rapper. And I told them, I said, I'm a real estate investor. And they're like, well, what is that? And I'm explaining it to them. They're probably like between 7 and 12 years old. And I'm telling them, I said, listen, I want you guys to start understanding, right? Because it's not about how much money you make. It's about how you manage your money. Okay. It's about how you manage your money. And I told them, I said, listen, school is great because it's going to teach you discipline. Now, what is discipline? Understanding that you have to wake up every morning, you have to retain information, and you have to pass, specific tests. It's going to give you the fundamentals to discipline, right? Real stuff. Now I was telling them, I said, listen, what you really need to learn is accounting, financing, business, money management, and you need to learn how to find a high income earning skill. Okay. I broke it down really easy because I was like, listen, the reason why somebody at McDonald's gets paid what they get paid is because of the value that they're bringing. Okay. Now, based on a doctor gets paid on the value that they're bringing, but an entrepreneur can get paid more because they're not being, capped by another entity. Okay. So that's why a lot of doctors always say, you know what, let me just start my own business. But if you're working at a hospital, it's very hard because once again, you have that entity over you telling you, this is what we're going to pay you, right? Which comes into the business aspect. There's two things when it comes down to business. There's obviously the money side of it and the talent side of it, right? Let's just say if I own a mom and pop pizza store, I know how to cook pizzas, but I don't have the money to get the brick and mortar to actually build the actual storefront. So it means I get myself a private lender or somebody that's going to go ahead and take 50%. Why? Because I don't have the actual capital. It's the same thing with that doctor. They have the talent, the education on how to save lives, but they don't know how to bring customers in. They don't know how to bring patients in, right? So this is why I say you got to have I think it's a multitude of things to be able to make money. The reason is because you have to be a people's person, you have to know business, and you have to know how to really exploit that trade for value and not for money.
Man,
That
I'm just wanted to comment because I'm watching Alex as you saying all that, and I said we're about to go ahead and get you a Money Monopolizer shirt so you can be on this side of the mic, so you can be one of the coasts, because everything you just said is stuff that we had covered like over the past few episodes, like especially with understanding that you need to find a high value skill, like you need to find a way to give value to the community in some way, shape, or form, and also understanding that you're capped as far as the amount of money you can make at a institution or at a company, because no matter how good your skill is, you are under somebody else's control when it comes to the amount you can make off of your skill. So everything that you cover, me and Alex had talked about like a couple episodes ago. So yeah, everybody go ahead and get you on this side. But
and I don't
Alex,
think
you want to say something? What's up?
yeah, because I don't think people understand or people realize the importance of value. Like value is such a word. I think it's just so used so much that people just don't really understand like how important value actually is, because most people just relate their value based off of what they were already told that they're worth, right? If your employer tells you that you're worth $50,000 a year, you in your head you just equate yourself to like that's the most I can actually make. That's you don't even know that you're bringing a lot more value to that company than what they're actually paying you, right? You don't even, those two things don't even click in your head. But once you actually understand that concept, then you start to see things from a different perspective and a different lens, because once you understand that your effort brings a certain amount of value and your job brings a certain amount of value, now you start thinking, okay, how can I get on the other side and bring more value? And you have to be on the other side in order to bring more value, because someone else, like you were saying, someone else is determining your value. You have to put yourself in a position to where you can determine your own value. And that whole concept of value, as opposed to just looking at money and trying to provide value, that is like, I think, one of the most game-changing concepts just in business in general.
And you know what, breaking it down, like I said, I've only been in business 4 years, and I think I've done very well. But breaking it down, what you want to do is you want to be a bigger fish in a small pond. Okay, you want to be a bigger fish in a small pond, which means that though you don't have to be a shark.
Yeah.
Because now you're a shark in the ocean. You know how many millions of types of fishes there is, right? But if you're a nice sized bass in a small pond, well, guess what? You're the biggest one there, right? So, for example, and that's why wholesaling works in great like metropolitan areas, but it also works in great suburb areas, because if you're the only one wholesaling in that particular radius, everybody has to work through you, which means that you're going to be getting most of the deals, right? So, what I've noticed is that if you have a high income earning skill, right, you become a big fish in a small pond, right? Then what you start doing, you start making money. But the way that you really elevate your business is by delegating. Okay, so let's break down McDonald's again, right? What people don't understand is just exactly what you just said, Alex, right? Is that at the end of the day, they'll tell you this is what you're worth, this is what you're gonna make, 30 grand a year. But what they don't know is that if you quit and everybody quit at the same time, the business will not run. Okay. So what you have to do is you have to be like Phil Jackson. You have to have Jordan and Scotty and all these people on your team. You don't got to be the best team player. You just have to have the best team. And if you have the best team and you're solving a problem and bringing value, you're going to get paid the most dollars. It's just the way it is. So once again, I could go out and wash my car right now. But the reason why I'm going to go and pay for somebody else is because it's convenience for me.
Yep.
Right. And people don't understand. Like Shaq owns a bunch of car washes. Right. People will say t-shirt business. Oh, imagine if you told, let's just say a woman, hey, what do you do for a living, Alex? And you're like, oh, I sell t-shirts. She's going to be like, well, I don't know about that. Right. But then when you say, hold on, but I run a 7-figure t-shirt business, I actually run a corporation. Now it's a whole bunch, because you know what it is that it's a small commodity, but what you're doing is you're solving a problem, right? Because what you said is, you know what? I'm going to delegate this and I'm going to source this to where I am bringing the best type of quality t-shirts. I'm bringing convenience and I'm solving a problem for people. You might be selling t-shirts or you might be selling things for the hospital on scrubs. You never know, right? So that's what I love about business, man, is literally finding those hacks and being able to monopolize your money, bro.
Yo, we can go into
Hard.
so much with that. That was a great little segment you just had right there. I loved because there's a perception of how people perceive you a certain way based on what you tell them that you do. I was just having this conversation earlier. So I'm a contractor for NASA. If I tell somebody that, they're like, "Oh man, okay, that's what's up. I see." But then I on the side, which is making more money, I run a rental car business. I rent out cars to people. That is bringing in on Turo, yes, and that brings in more than the 9 to 5 job that I have. People are going to look at, but if I tell people, "Oh yeah, man, I left my job. I'm renting out cars," they're gonna be like, "Oh, why would you do that? Like, you saw what you were doing before." Like, you have to understand that you're solving multiple people's problems and then you're being compensated for that. So yeah, so if money is the goal, especially if you're trying to buy back your time by being able to build a business that cash flows you, that not being capped by a company, understand that you have to find some type of high value, high income earning skill, like you mentioned. But on top of that, you need to understand what other things do you need to have in order to truly run a business and make it profitable. Like I think you were mentioning this earlier, you need to understand that now that you are under the from under the umbrella of your company, you have to become that company. Now you have to know what the company does in order to run successfully. You need to know how to manage people. You need to know both customers and employees. You need to know how to market your company to make sure people know about it. And all those things that come along with it is something that you have to make sure that you understand. So now I really want to continue moving on with the whole conversation because we need to really understand, like, what do you do now? I know you say you start off in wholesaling, but I know you have a lot of other things that you do on top of that. So talk to me about it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start off with wholesaling. We still wholesale. We still run an acquisition company here in Orlando, Florida. And once again, man, just solving problems. So what ended up happening was, people ask me, Brandon, what are 3 things that helped you really kind of scale your wholesale business? And I told them, I said, listen, when I first got started, man, I was doing direct mail. All right. And I have, no cap in our wrap. We're still doing it. And what happened is that I didn't know, I was by myself, how crazy this was, right? So when I sent direct mail out and I started getting phone calls and I'm walking through the hospital or I'm cutting somebody's hair and I'm trying to take the phone calls, I didn't know that I'm literally wasting all my money because that first impression is everything, right? Yeah. So and when you start breaking down your cost per lead, obviously I didn't know anything about that before. But every time that you pick up that phone and you don't know, but you know now that you could have lost $30 because that's how much you're spending per lead, you're like, Jesus Christ, right? So a CRM was literally something that helped me understand my business. I literally needed to find out where were these people coming from. And more importantly, another successful tip, right, for everybody out there listening is if you want to make money in life, you have to be a people's person. That's it. That's all it is. You can literally sell smoothies out of your house. But if you have great customer service and people like you, and then on top of that, they like the actual product, you're going to sell a lot. Okay. You're going to sell a lot. But what people don't understand is that the BLT, believe, like, and trust. People do business with you because they believe, like, and trust you. Once again, I wouldn't be on this podcast if Marlon or Alex didn't either believe in what I did, like myself, or trust on what I'm doing. Okay. So with that being said, I understood that this was a people's business and I didn't know how to basically store and track and, have all the report. Hey, this is Marlon. He's out of Houston and he's doing this and he's doing that. So every time I do call him, I'm trying to get that deal. I can already bring that up as if I remembered. So the CRM business is basically something I do now. It's called Mamba. We have a lot of people on. It's growing really fast. And essentially, guys, it's literally my CRM over the course of the last 4 years that we've been tweaking over and over and over again.
And can you define what CRM is for anybody that's listening? Because I know they don't even know.
Yeah, so CRM is a customer relationship manager. And what it's supposed to help you do, it's supposed to help you track, store, automate, delegate your task. Okay. So a lot of people, and we'll go back to this right now, which is a lot of people when they get that entrepreneur bug, right, guys? They want to fire their boss. Then they become an entrepreneur and they don't want to fire themselves.
Yeah. Right. That's good.
That's you end up working more, right? You end up working more as an entrepreneur than what you were doing at your 9 to 5, which then makes you want to say, you know what? I'm just going to go back, bro, because I've been putting in these hours and I'm not getting paid. Over there, I would have got paid. Now, granted, it's only $10, $12, $15 an hour, but I would have got paid, right? So, and that's what happened. And that's another thing that kind of clicked on me, which was why I decided to leave the 9 to 5 atmosphere was I would work a whole year, guys. It's about to be another bar, all right? Money Monopoly goes another bar. I would work a whole year to have PTO for 1 week and still not be able to go on a vacation because I couldn't afford it.
That's a fact. Dang, bro, that hit. Okay,
that's like being on probation and then not being able to pay the probation fees. You're just gonna be stuck in the system. So really, the 9 to 5 is the same thing as the judicial system when it comes down to all of that type of stuff, because we're stuck.
Yeah,
we're stuck, right? They don't teach us how to not pay taxes. I'm not a big advocate on politics and all this stuff, but when Trump said, I don't pay taxes like this, and people were coming after him, I wasn't like, man, I'm hating. I was like, how? Show me how. You know what I'm saying? Because money's green, and I'm trying to figure out how I can keep more money, because this is about generational wealth, right? So I started the CRM business, and it really was for, my students and mentorship, right? And they're like, man, I was selling it to them, as a bundle. And then they were just seeing results. They were loving it. And then all of a sudden it clicked in my head. This is another problem that other, aspiring entrepreneurs have. So what I did is slapped on a logo, thought about, to be honest with you, Kobe just passed away. I said, I'm going to name it Mamba, and slapped on a logo on there. And I knew the fact of number one was that it was going to solve a problem. And number two, to be honest with you, because we keep it all the way 100, it was my CRM. And, people, when you have a brand, people do cater towards what you have going on. Right. So we just decided to throw a number on there, and, people started seeing results, and that's another thing on business I want to talk about, is that people will come in based off the brand. People invest in you, and then they stay because of the product or the service.
So one thing that I noticed, though, because it's interesting kind of how you're doing it now, because obviously, you started into real estate as a wholesaler, right? And so now the thing is, like, because wholesaling was like, actually, because when we got into real estate, obviously it's like one of the lower barrier to entries in real estate is wholesaling, in terms of, like, this is like, you can pretty much do, anybody can wholesale.
I think it's the lowest for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely the lowest. And so in terms of, what it actually encompasses, though, it's so interesting, because I think it's the one that's like, you have to be like, honestly, you have to figure out how to solve problems the best as a wholesaler. Like, there's no other profession, like, even as an investor, you don't really have to solve problems as much as you would have for a wholesaler. Because the thing is, when you're wholesaling, you're solving like legitimate real people's, like, real life problems, in terms of like problems that are like almost, in terms of like the seriousness, life and death, right? For a lot of these kind of situations. So and you kind of like, I've been reading this book, it's called Unlocking the Customer Value Chain, and one thing they talk about in there is just the whole concept of, like, for businesses, there's like multiple ways you could create value. So like, now with your wholesaling business, you create value for two different people. Obviously, for the sellers of these homes, right? You create value for them, and you create value now for aspiring wholesalers and other entrepreneurs. Right. So now,
too, because they when you're making money as a flipper, the last thing you want to do is do what a wholesaler does. That's why they do what they do.
Exactly. And that's a whole nother bar, though, because it's like, I can guarantee, right? And this is why I always tell people too, is like, I never ever wanted to do off market. Like, when we do our deals and like flips and rentals, I don't even care to do any of the stuff that the wholesalers do. That's why I don't mind paying that wholesale fee, because it's like, you'd have paid it anyway in your marketing to yourself. So
you got to choose your hard, man. You got to choose your hard.
Right. So, but no, I just wanted to comment on that whole thing, because it's that's what business is at the end of the day. And I love, how you have kind of built
Yeah,
that business now.
and then going, further, right? So then after that, one of the biggest things that I struggled with in school was math. But I know how to count money. I know how to, I know how to look at a HUD. So what ended up happening is that, that's how we came out with any deal. So, me and Brian, we were like, I really got in tune with the creative financing. I was learning about it and I was really in tune with it. And then he started putting me more on game. And, I just started, learning everything about it. And then I was just like, man, we need to create something that's going to help people understand how they can literally build generational wealth with little to no money down.
Yeah.
Like, wholesaling is great, but how do we keep more and how do we actually help more people? And we have an app out there. It's called the Any Deal app, and basically what it does is that it helps you make offers from different types of strategies. So lease options, wraps, subject tos, owner financing, wholesaling, rentals, mortgage. We now are e-signing documents. We have voice memos to where it helps the wholesaler actually explain the contract without you having to be there and closing over the phone. Instant skip tracing, so many things. But once again, solving another problem in the community, because there's a lot of people when it comes down, to teaching this, which we obviously teach it now as well. But one of the questions was, man, I don't understand the math. Another thing is that, hey, does the 70% rule work? It's not working for me. And it doesn't work. It's a rule of thumb, right? Because in different markets, different buyers buy at different things, which is why I don't teach that. See, and that's another reason why I was able to be really successful wholesaling here in my area, because I knew that 20%, these investors were actually looking to pay or to achieve to get less. So they were looking to get between 10 and 12% in my market gross ROI. So I can lock up deals at 18%, and I can keep the rest. I don't need it. So, or I'm sorry, at 12% versus the 20%. Why? Because I understood my market. If I was using the 70% rule, I'd have other wholesalers beating me out all the time, right? So I wanted people to really understand real estate investing, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I feel like as a wholesaler, we are providing a huge, huge problem, but I also feel like we need to get better at actually understanding real estate. I think that we need to provide more value on literally understanding what is gross ROI, what is closing costs, why are we doing this, why are we doing that, understanding that we have to give underwriting comps and this and that. A lot of people just say, hey, man, just do the 70% rule, tell them this is what you want, and that's it. In our business, what we do is we literally give them the comps, we give them the estimated repairs, we put it all in the draft letter. We're solving a problem, like Alex said, on both sides, with the investor and with the homeowner, and we're presenting it and we're wrapping it up, customer service. And that's why we're able to make 20, 30, in March, I had our biggest one for 70. That's why we're able to do that type of stuff, because of how serious we take our position,
No, that's a fact, man. And I think that really solves a big problem, is being able to have some type of education along with just like finding the deal itself, because a lot of people are going to just be thinking based on the few videos that they may have seen on Instagram or social media where somebody's saying, hey, use the 70% rule to calculate how much you should offer on a property. And so now people are maybe misinformed, and to the point where they are going in with the wrong information, and they're not able to find a deal because of the fact that they're trying to hold firm to what they saw on social media. And so now you come in and solve a problem with that by offering this app that allows them to be able to pretty much get a walkthrough of what a deal is supposed to look like, how you're supposed to structure it, how you're supposed to be able to obtain the deal. And I want now, is there like any relation between the Any Deal app and MambaCRM? Like, how can we work with both of those together?
Yeah, none at all. Honestly, there's no relationship between them. Just the fact that we're a part of them. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it was just something that we just decided to create because of trying to help people. Especially when it comes down to wholesaling, we see so many people that get the deal and they never find a buyer. Why don't you have a buyer? Well, the reason why is because you got the property too high. If you knew what the numbers were, you wouldn't be having this issue, right? Or some people, or sometimes, right, people have to go back and do what? Price reduction.
Yeah.
See, I'll give you another gem. The reason why we're out here outbeating the wholesalers is because we actually promised that we won't do a price reduction. Why? Because I already know what my buyers are going to buy at. And my word to you from Blue Notes Inc. to you guys is, hey, how are we different? I'm not going to come back with a price reduction. Now, granted, I'm going to come a lower than what they're offering you, but that's because they don't really know what they're offering you. Yeah. Right? Because Any Deal is telling me, hey, this is the numbers that you're the buyer wants to make, this is what you're going to make, and this is what the homeowner should make. Reverse engineering. Another thing is, cap rate. A lot of people don't know about capitalization rate, and that's what we're going into a little bit more of, rentals and multifamily, whatever. But you need to know this stuff if you want to build generational wealth. You can't just go based off rule of thumbs.
Yeah, man. And that's the education is the thing that like a lot of people try to skip out on. And in real estate, I think that's probably the worst industry you can get into as in terms of like entrepreneurship and business, and try to skip out on the education, because you're gonna lose a lot of money. You're gonna get yourself in some bad situations, and it won't be pretty, because you're dealing with obviously big numbers, and especially when this is like your first time getting into the business, you had to know your numbers. I remember our first deal that we did. It was a flip in Houston, and it was like, I mean, just looking back on it today, it's like, oh my God, you didn't know what you were doing at all. It's like and at that time, you're just so excited, so happy to say you got a deal.
Oh man,
That's
excited is an understatement. I remember the message that
I
we
mean,
were
let's not
sending.
even get into that. Let's not even get into that. It's just like, you don't know.
Yeah, and that's the 2 E's that I talk about. Literally education, experience. Nothing beats experience. Which is why we also talk about getting a mentor, getting some type of education or something that's going to help you with the trial and error, because you're going to pay in money or in time. And we spoke about this already, right, guys? Which is, time is more valuable than money.
Yeah.
If you go out and commit a crime, they're not going to take your money. They're going to take your time.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
Right. So when it comes down to that piece of it, education is important in the right space, though. Right. No knock to people out there learning science, but I don't feel like science is going to make me money, or learning about history. I need to learn more stuff about what I was talking about earlier, right? Financing and this and that and the third, and how to actually money multipliers, right? Compound interest, stuff, right? So then experience. That's another thing. Like, I see so many people come out of college, and it's crazy because they have all the education, but they still have to get trained by somebody that has no education because they've been there for 15 years. So the 2 E's are very important. And that's what I love about it, is that I've been able to educate myself in places where I'm learning high income earning skills, but also I've been able to have the experience to say, you know what, I've done a flip and I've totally wrecked it, and I know what not to do now.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one thing, is another thing why a lot of wholesalers it's hard for them to transition to being a flipper maybe, or a rental, because it's like, I know what flippers want. I'm getting it for them. I see what they're doing, right? I know how they're making money. I know the system. But then it's like, well, would it work for me though? Right? Because the experience isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, well, most people are always afraid of getting the experience for themselves because they're afraid to fail. And once you get over that particular fear, like, that's why I love what you said in the very beginning of the episode. You were saying you can fail every year from age 20 to age 30 and still not even feel the effects of it by age 33, 34. Like, you're going to bounce back from it. It's nothing. Any failure is only deemed a failure if you look at it that way. We look at that first deal that we did in Houston, and look at it as a lesson that we learned about what not to do. Like, it wasn't something that we lost a lot of money on. It was just something that we wouldn't get that deal if we saw it today versus back then, because we know what things like red flags that should say don't do this deal because of this. It's priced too high. It's not like there's just certain things that don't make it as appealing as another deal that we could find more opportunity with. So now we know in the future what and what not to do. But that comes from experience of doing something, not necessarily succeeding at it, and then learning and taking away from what could I have done better, and just being able to analyze it. Then the education thing is just as important, like just prior to. And when you say you need to be educated in the right field and the right information, because that's everything. People feel like education stops once they leave college. For me, education literally had just started. Like, I had, like, I've been educating myself ever since I left college, and it's just been in a different field. So now that's all I'm thinking about. Well, that's all I'm doing every day, is educating myself with the right information, so that way I can achieve the goals that I want. I think that's where it really starts with, is like having an end goal in mind, then educating yourself on how can I best get there. So that comes through personal development, through real estate education, through business education, finance, everything that you were talking about.
Yeah, no, and And I want to touch on this too, because I think that you mentioned, as well as money being something that doesn't bring happiness, right? It's the time, right? And what I've noticed too is that I'm not over here advocating everybody has to be a millionaire or a billionaire, because I've met people that make 30, 40 grand a year and they're happy, right? So all I'm saying is find yourself something that's going to make you happy, right? But most of the times, money is a tool that can make a lot of people happy, right? Unfortunately, it's just the way the world is ran, and that's why at 24 I had that pivot, and I literally wrote down my why, right? Everybody talks about their why, but see, why for me, the WHY is what hurts you, and what was hurting me is coming home every single day, going to my room, understanding that I have my grandma in this room, my mom is over there as well. Me as a grown man, 24 years old, I'm literally over here trying to pay $200 just to say that I helped out, right? And that just didn't sit right with me. And that's where I was like, that really was hurting me the most at that point in time. And I said, you know what? I need to find something that's going to be able to propel all of us. See, a lot of the times we don't understand that right now there's somebody counting on you to make it. Regardless, even right now, Marlon, Alex, both of you guys, there's somebody in your family, in your circle, in your top 5 that doesn't tell you, maybe will never tell you, but they don't know, but they're relying on you to make it for the rest of them, So that's what really kind of changed my mindset. Started obviously reading, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all these other books. And then, then your mind just, everything you learn 12 years in school, you're like, oh my God, I don't, yeah, the hell with that.
Yeah, man. And anybody that's me, like, if anyone ever tells me that money can't buy them happiness, I mean, they're lying. To me, to me, it's not even to say that money itself is gonna make you happy, but obviously the things that money could do for you is enough to change your situation to make you happy. And if money not gonna make you happy, then I bet you poverty is gonna make you miserable. So
exactly, no, 100%, and it's right. But what I want to touch on is that you have to be ethical, you have to have morals, and
yes,
you have to be grounded, you have to be intentional, because man, money will humble you quick too. There's just certain things that you can't buy. You can't buy a sickness. God forbid you get sick. You can't pay somebody off to get rid of the sickness, and it just depends on what happens, right? Let's just say you fall in love with somebody, and to them money's not an issue. You can't buy people off sometimes, right? So it's
that's
one of
Dr.
those.
Dre.
Exactly, right. So like I said, money is always the option, but also being ethical and having a purpose. Be purposeful with what you're going on, and that's what I noticed is that as a nurse, a lot of people could have said, hey, you're going to make good money, but what I noticed is that the time was going by so slow. And when you notice that the time goes by so slow, that means you're not doing something that you like.
Ooh, yeah, that's so true.
I mean, guys, 3 years, 4 years now, actually, gonna be 4 years already. I'm like, where did my life go? Why? Because I've been doing stuff that I actually like.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know that I liked it, but time has just flown by. And I remember working at the barbershop, going to school, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, is the day over yet or what?
Yeah. Yeah. Checking the clock every 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So, on top of everything that you have already accomplished, I would like to, everybody we bring onto the podcast, they usually have some type of vision, especially that's what's like making them making them so ambitious and trying to achieve so much. I know you said you have your why, like what hurts you, and so where is that propelling you to want to achieve within the next 5 to 10 years from now in general?
Yeah, so I'll break it down, and like I said, I like to be transparent. Initially, my first why was trying to help my mom and grandma. I just wanted to be able to say, hey, I did something, I'm doing something, be proud of me. I'm happy that you guys did so much and sacrificed so much. I want to repay you guys, right? Then after that, it's obviously, like I said, I'm a young guy. I'm coming from not the best situation. I wouldn't say poverty, but obviously I didn't have a lot of stuff. So for me, I found the plug. I found how to make money. I didn't want to tell anybody about it, right? So I'm just trying to make the most money possible. That was my why. And then I quickly found out, like you guys are talking about, that there's something more important. And what really kind of pivoted was when I started helping people, when I started talking about it. When I started talking about it and literally people started seeing results from what I was teaching for free, I noticed that really made me happy. I noticed that really got me going. And now my why is to honestly try to help as many people as possible. And it might sound cliche, but it really is just one of those things, because before the age of 24, I really didn't know what I was going to do with my life. You got to think about it. I was a barber. I volunteered. I went to college. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I know that there's so many people out there that really just don't know what to do. And that's cool. And you don't have to do real estate forever. But if I can help you make an extra 10, 20 grand a year to help you do what you should be doing, right? If you want to own a hair business, or you want to sell t-shirts, or you want to do whatever, I know an extra 10, 20, 30, $40,000 or a high income skill is going to help you. So that's my why right now, is to try to help as many people as possible, just like me. And to be honest, is to just spend more time doing things that I like. I was talking about this the other day. God forbid, if something was to happen to me, I would be very, very content with the 4 years that I've done now, because I feel like I brought massive impact. I feel like a lot of people, they're happy with who I am. And I feel like before that, I feel like I didn't have too much of a purpose.
Yeah.
I think that purpose is really everything, man, because there's like a couple of quotes that made me think about it. That you made me think about when you said that. The first one is that the greatest tragedy in life is to be alive and to not know why. That's pretty, like, that means that you never have found your purpose. And like you said, there's people that have not found it into their 30s and 40s. You say that you, before age 24, you didn't know what yours was. But the key thing between you and everybody else is that it's okay to not know what your purpose is, but it's not okay to not be consistently searching out to figure out what it is. Like, you should be in constant pursuit of what is it going to be for me. And even though I don't know it today, I'm constantly in pursuit of figuring it out. That way, one day I will know. And then once I find it, I'm going to be walking the net.
20 to 30,
Exactly.
Figure out your purpose and fail every day. So you can't say success without failure. It's just yin and yang. That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? And it's just so crazy to me, because I talk about it all the time. Did I know I was going to be doing this? No. I did not picture me doing real estate or helping people in real estate or even making money in real estate. But it's one of those things that God will push you towards your purpose if you go out and seek for it.
Yeah,
It's just like that,
love-
and I'm able to, think about it now. This is how I was able to meet you guys. If I was still doing what I was doing before, y'all wouldn't want to hear this story about me sweeping the barbershop and just trying to become a nurse. I wouldn't be on here.
That's honorable, man, but it wouldn't have brought you on the podcast.
I would have been calling you guys, hey, can I make it, man?
Yeah. So let me ask, because I want to make sure that I want to be able to plug the episode, and we got a good title for it. Could you kind of like just briefly mention kind of what generally speaking, how much does the business generate each month, just in terms of like the wholesaling and also the other side of it?
So wholesaling right now does this around between 75 to 6 figures a month.
Wow.
So Orlando, actually, our assignment spreads are a bit bigger. It's around $14,000. So traditionally, we don't have to do as many deals as other markets do. Now it is a little bit harder to get these types of deals here, because it's more of a touristic area, World Disney. But I honestly enjoy doing the wholesaling just because I'm teaching it, and it's something that I know that it can actually help me build generational wealth. Like, the Mamba's cool, any deal is cool, which obviously makes us a ton of money as well. But these are things that at the end of the day, I don't know if I can leave down to my children. But buying real estate assets is something that I can leave. And that's what I always recommend, is that why I love wholesaling is that it's going to help you understand how to really invest in real estate. So you're getting education for free. So yeah, we do between, like I said, the 75 to 6 figures. Some months, like I said, we go low. 2019, I had an office. 2020 hit. I was speaking, doing engagements, came back to town. Corona hit, so we went away with the office. And then we figured out that we didn't need an office, right, to do business, which was obviously great. Got rid of our overhead. Yeah. And I recommend anybody, like Alex was saying, it's very low cost to get in. It just takes a lot of, and that's what I preach. I can teach you everything real estate, but I can't teach you hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I just can't teach you hustle.
How many of the wholesale deals do y'all actually like wholesale? And how many do y'all end up like keeping to like flip or turn into rentals?
That's what we're doing now. Like I said, my middle purpose was money. So we were just selling everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, obviously we have to make sure that the acquisition team makes money. Everybody makes money in the company, but I'm trying to push for keeping keeping more properties under the belt, just so that we can obviously, build from there and build a portfolio. So what we've been doing now is either paying an assignment fee of a percentage of what it would sell on the market, or a flat fee that I would pay my company for bringing in the deal or working on the deal. So yeah, that's what we have going on. And then just literally breaking it down. Like I said, when I first got started, I didn't really know too much about creative financing. So we were letting up a lot of deals. So when people were like, yes, I want to sell. If somebody tells you I want to sell, you should automatically find a way to buy their house. Yeah, automatically. Like there's no reason why, because you can list it, you can obviously wholesale it, you can wholesale it, or you can do something creative with it.
Yeah.
So if you're not finding a way, if somebody says, yes, take my house, you need to find a way on how to be able to monetize and help them as well.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And that's like, that's the beauty of real estate, because it's like there's so many ways to get a deal done. There's so many ways to make a deal, especially when we talk about creative financing. It really is like there's like what you said is like so true, because if someone is able to sell their house, there should be not like, unless it's like obviously like significantly overpriced, but there should not be a way where you're not finding a way to end up buying this house. So
yeah, and that's what, and if you don't have to get into wholesaling, but even as a real estate investor, let's just say a flipper, if you're running a portfolio, you're getting rentals, or you're doing multifamily, whatever it is that you're doing, you're always going to have to source deals or have somebody that's sourcing deals. Yeah. So it's always a good trait to have under your belt, or even know something about, because you're going to have to be that person that's going to negotiate for that deal or get that deal regardless, right? So I'm just happy to be able to say that, I learned this trait, and obviously I'm each and every day I'm getting better at it. We're just trying to wholesale more and more. And we're just trying to teach people more how to do it without having to go to Harvard or community college.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. Cool. So what we'll do is we'll wrap up the show with our last segment, which is pretty much going to be the Fast Five. So we'll ask you 5 questions, and you'll answer them in 10 seconds or less.
Let's do it.
Cool. So I'll take the first one. First question: what does success mean to you?
Success to me means doing something that your family hasn't done before, and you being happy with it every single day waking up.
Yes, sir. Question number 2. What is your favorite money or business book?
Ooh, that's a good one. So my favorite money book is probably going to be, I don't know if it's a money book, but Rich Dad Poor Dad. And my favorite business book is not really a business book, but it's Outwitting the Devil, Mindset.
Yeah, it's a great book, especially the audiobook.
The audio book is crazy. Like when you
good audio.
If you listen to that audio, it's crazy, but it really kind of tells you how society, it's a crazy book, but I loved it.
Yeah. Man, that's good. That tells us why it seems like you're so relatable. Because honestly, it's like you read a lot of the same content, and a lot of things you say are like you're saying them in the exact same way we say them. So it's good to see. So
that's what they say. Great minds think alike, right?
Sure. That's a fact. So next question: would you rather have $1,000 a week for life or $1 million today, and why?
I'd rather have $1 million. Now I'd rather have $1 million. Before I would have said 1,000. Reason why, I would have been content. Now I would know what to do with it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's saying everything the way
I swear.
We said that last week.
Bro,
that's funny.
The right information changes your perspective and your responses for sure. Question number 4. If you could go back and change anything about your journey, what would it be?
I would have failed more in my 20s. So I only got 2 more years left. So I would have failed more. I would have understood that being around people, you can't be around everybody. You can't be around everybody. You know, you gotta cut people out your life. It's just what it is. You know, Jay-Z says it. You know, when you start getting money, they say you change. It's not it. It's just that if you're the highest paid earner in that room, you can't learn from anybody. So what I would have done is when I started hanging out with other people that were making money, I literally thought that way. But when I was hanging around with people that were doing things that I shouldn't be doing, I was thinking the same way.
Yep. I love it, man. Fail early, fail often, fail forward. Last question, where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so right now I would say social media, my Instagram is at Blue Notes Brandon, and then on YouTube as well, Blue Notes Brandon. That's the best place to reach out to me. You can also text me. My phone number is on there as well.
Well, dope, man. This has been dope. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. We appreciate you coming, and spending our last hour with us talking about a lot of the things we got into. I think this could be a pretty impactful episode for a lot of people, just because, especially, a lot of things we talked about in the beginning with the mindset. Those are the most important conversations to have, and the most important topics. Like, we could talk about the making of money and all that kind of stuff, but that doesn't come until you actually switch your mindset. And for a lot of people, that's the biggest thing that is holding them back.
And that's why I talk about, a lot of people tell me, hey, Brandon, I want to build my brand. And I say, listen, there's 3 things to brand. There's lifestyle, education, and documentation. So lifestyle, you got to show people lifestyle they want to live. Documentation, you have to show people that you're making money, right? Because now they think you're scamming or selling drugs. And then education, you can't be cocky. You got to show them how to get the bag. Yeah. And in the education umbrella is that mindset. You know what I'm saying? It's just that mindset that you have to understand that you have, delayed gratification. You got to delay shit. Like, that's just the way it is. Yeah, can I go out and buy the Lambo right now? Yeah, but that might take me back 3 years. So I appreciate you guys to let me come on, man. I thought it was a great podcast. I had a lot of fun. Like I said, when I do these podcasts, I like to be as authentic and transparent as possible. So I hope I don't rattle no cages.
No. Well, that's it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you learned something of value today. If you did, we'd appreciate it if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can find out more info about us on Twitter at the Monopolizers or IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged, so be sure to check that out and share those posts. But until then, we're out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.